Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, Michael. Yes, I can hear you. We are live on YouTube. We'll get started here in about 5 minutes, but I got it started early so we could share that link out to people.
Oh, perfect. So we're already live on YouTube then.
Can you hear me? Yes, sir. We are live on YouTube. I will go ahead and get this shared out to everybody.
Fantastic. I will do the same.
See Mike Dickerson in the chat there. Thanks for joining, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Nice. The chat's already hopping here. Good evening, everybody. We got Finest City Cycling, old Ben, Forest Mommy, and Mike Dickerson. So great to see everybody. We'll give it a few more minutes here. Please share the link around. We'll get started here shortly. Thanks. Old Ben, I see your comment there in the chat that you're a newly credentialed volunteer lobbyist. Who's that through? Or what are the details there? Ben in the chat says he's here on behalf of the Harmony Initiative Incorporated. Not sure what that. Can you give us any details on that, old Ben? All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started here just after 7:30. Michael, are you there?
I am here, Brandon. How are you doing today?
Hey, doing very well. Doing very well. How about yourself? You staying warm?
Oh, I'm staying quite warm. It's been rather cold though. But we've stayed inside. Me and my family just kind of hung out and had a couple very important but restful days.
Nice.
How
That is
about
a
you?
yeah, doing very well. Staying warm. We got a cold spell here with us, so we got to have the live stream slides reflect that here.
Very appropriate.
But pretty excited. Yeah. So for people who are new, every week we do a legislative live streams from 7:30 to 9:30, maybe later as we get further through the session, where Michael Vance, the legislative director of the Libertarian Party of Colorado, and Brandon Work, myself, will discuss the upcoming bills of the week, kind of give you some idea of what you can testify on, what you can speak to down at the committee hearings at the state capitol in Denver, and how you can have an impact. And we're going to have some great guests throughout the legislative session. This week, we have Representative Brandy Bradley, one of our true freedom fighters down there at the state capitol. She'll be joining us at 8 o'clock. And we're also going to have Natalie Menten join about 8:45 to discuss Senate Bill 5. That is definitely the most important bill of the week. But Michael, what would you like to do? You want to do a little introduction here for yourself and the Libertarian Party?
Absolutely. My name is Michael Vance. I'm the legislative director for the Libertarian Party. We are the largest third party in the state. We are very proud of the work we've done recently, particularly with the Liberty Pledge. We've had we've had people either sign deals, sign a pledge for us, or work their own deal, and we are very proud of the work we've done in the state. Everybody who we have worked with has made it on to, has won the general election. So we're very grateful for all the hard work we've done on the state and federal level. Uh, so we're excited to see what happens this legislative session, but we're also very concerned about a lot of bills, and we need all of your guys' support to help keep Colorado as free as humanly possible while the Democrats are doing what they're doing to our state.
One day we will be a free state, Michael. I truly believe that, but it's going to take a lot of people getting involved, a lot of people fighting, a lot of people not giving up. We have to stay and fight against these authoritarians down in our state government and even local governments who want to control every aspect of our lives. So let's start looking through the slides here. So Jerry was asking in the chat what was the agenda for tonight. What's the live stream about? So we are very interactive. So please on YouTube, get in the chat, talk there. We're gonna hopefully get some good questions for our guests tonight. But our agenda tonight, we're going to start now here at 7:30, discussing the bills of the week. And then at 8 o'clock, we're going to have Representative Brandy Bradley joining us to talk about her signature legislation that's coming out this year that she's introduced so far, and kind of talk about what's going on in the state legislature. Then about 8:45, we'll have Natalie Menten talking about the most important bill of the week, Senate Bill 5. This is the big union bill. And then after that, we'll go into some of the bills that we've been tracking and that we're going to be keeping an eye on throughout the legislative session. And if we missed anything, please let us know. Let us know if there's any other bills out there of importance that we should be watching that maybe we missed. How does this sound, Michael?
Sounds great.
Perfect. Perfect. So let's look at some of the bills being heard this week. Let's go ahead and look at the legislative calendar. So for anybody new out there, you want to go to leg.colorado.gov. That is your one-stop shop. That is the most important place where you're going to find a lot of this information. So looking, we'll go over there in just a second, but kind of looking at the schedule this week, there's really only a few committees being where there's bills being heard. They're still doing a lot of these smart presentations, which means a lot of executive agencies are giving the new legislators and returning legislators kind of some updates on what's going on in our state government. So we're going to be really looking at Tuesday and Wednesday. So let's jump over here to the legislative website. So leg.colorado.gov. This is really important website for people to become familiar with if you want to be participating in our state government. I do want to let people know though that since we have a lot of new people in the chat there, you really want to check out this Find My Legislator button. There's this little button down here. It says Find My Legislator. It's also at the top of every page. Now that has been updated. Remember last week, Michael, we had noticed that they had not updated the new legislators. They still a lot of the ones that had been defeated in November. So that has been updated. So people, please know learn who your state representative, who your state senator is, have conversations with them, sign up on their email list, show up at their town halls. I saw in the chat that Finest City Cycling was at a town hall today, hearing from some of their legislators and getting some good information about what's going on down in Denver. So please sign up for their newsletters, go to their town halls, become an active participant because that's what it's going to take to really have an impact. So then if you click on session schedule up here, you can click on full schedule, and this is going to tell you everything that's going on down at the state capitol this week. So Sunday, of course, nothing happening. Monday is Martin Luther King Day, so there's nothing going on down there. Tuesday, there are there's several committees meeting, but most of them are only having these smart presentations. Really, the House Judiciary is one of the more important committees, generally speaking, but that is the one this week that is going to be hearing some interesting legislation. So let's go back here. So if you click on the agenda, we can see that agenda for Tuesday at 1:30. Now, people, this is where you want to go to find out what you can speak on. You can speak remotely. You can speak in person. You can reach out to your legislators. You can reach out to the committee members about any of these bills if they're interesting to you. So I thought these were interesting. Michael, let's take a look here just at House Bill 25-1008. So we're seeing a lot of these behavioral health bills, specifically around criminal justice reform. So there's a lot of information coming out around these programs. So pretty interesting. Complementary behavioral health services in jails, legislative oversight committee concerning the treatment of persons with behavioral health disorders in the criminal and juvenile justice system. So just wanted to start with this bill as an example for people. If you click on where it says fiscal note, you can really get a good description of the bill and see how much it's going to cost. So very interesting information there. They give you a good summary of the legislation. So this would provide funding to jails to administer complementary behavioral health services. So kind of some interesting information there. Love to get any of your thoughts on any of these bills, Michael. So that's one of them being heard in the House Judiciary Committee, as well as not guilty by reason of insanity defense. Thought this one might be interesting. So House Bill 1058 also being heard on Tuesday with Mary Bradfield and Daphne Michelson Janae. This bill makes several updates to the procedure for not guilty by reason of insanity cases regarding evaluation length and conduct of interviews. So it could be a really interesting subject if this is something you're interested in. If you want to have a voice when it comes to our criminal justice system, definitely check this out and get some information on this bill and show up to speak if you are so inclined.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in this one. I mean, I feel like I need more information. I mean, reading through it, I'm just not necessarily sure uh how intense this is going to be. I know that they're asking for a lot more money. It seems to me from reading through it, they're asking for more money to really evaluate people to truly determine whether or not they should be um, convicted with a guilty by insanity defense. So uh, I understand there's a lot of people that try to abuse that plea. So if need be, I can understand we don't want to be convicting people who are just kind of crazy, who might need better help. That being said, we don't necessarily want to let those people free on the streets either. So we want to treat people accordingly, and if they should not be on the streets. We need to make sure our streets are safe. We are the 43rd most dangerous state in the country right now. We need to do better. So if this legislation will prove to help people be properly treated and create less crime overall, okay. But I'm also concerned with our legislators' current track record that this is going to have a lot of unforeseen consequences as well. So for me, I feel like there's a lot more to be determined on this one.
Yeah, well said, Michael. Definitely. Unfortunately, so many of our legislators down there on the Democratic side are a little bit more pro-crime, I guess is kind of what people would say. A little bit more lenient with their criminal justice reform attitudes. And unfortunately, like you said, Colorado is a dangerous place. So making it easier for people to have this a reason of insanity defense, maybe not necessarily a good thing. So those are two of the bills being heard this week in the Judiciary Committee. And folks, we're still very early in the legislative session, so we're going to be getting a lot more information going forward. It's really light schedule right now. The other committee that's very interested has some interesting bills on Tuesday is the Senate Business, Labor, and Technology Committee meeting at 2 p.m. in the old Supreme Court. So that's in the state Capitol building. Now, this we're going to wait to talk about till Natalie Menten joins us, but this is definitely the most important bill of the week. Senate Bill 5, the Worker Protection Collective Bargaining. So you definitely want to stay tuned for that. This is going to be a big bill that actually there's some split between Jared Polis, the governor, and the Democratic legislature. So it'll be interesting to see. Polis could potentially veto this bill. He's at least a little bit good on some of the business stuff. But just to give people a little bit of a preview of what we're going to be talking about 8:45, the bill eliminates the requirement for a second election to negotiate a union security agreement clause in the collective bargaining process. So it'll make it easier for people to form closed shops, unions in these businesses where potentially dues are required. So really interested to hear more about this. This could affect a lot of people across Colorado. So really important to pay attention to. Anything you want to bring up on that or anything else at this point, Michael?
Yeah, I share your concerns. I'm very concerned about what this is going to mean for the blue collar working class members of Colorado. But I don't really want to get into too many details right now, just because I know we've got Natalie coming up, and I'm excited to hear what she has to say about it. Because, um, yeah, yeah, I'm excited to see what Natalie's going to say.
Yeah, and I gotta echo what Forest Mommy's saying in the YouTube chat there that everything Marbury does is trash.
Yes.
It's interesting. Once you start to get to know some of these legislators, when you see their name attached to something, it becomes kind of a red flag. An alarm bell should go off if you see Marbury's name on any bill. Like, okay, this is not going to be good for landlords, property owners, or business owners. We'll take your pick.
Yeah, absolutely. He's definitely one of the worst, but I would say the difference between Mabry and somebody like a Timmy Hernandez or a Elizabeth Epps is he knows how to kind of keep his cool versus those other people, and you can see who made it to the 2025 legislative session who was booted out in the primary. Even Democrats were sick of their garbage.
Great point. Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, very interesting to see if that split will continue into this session or if they cleared out all their opposition. So Tuesday, you can see there's other committee hearings that you might find interesting. It's all going to be presentations, which you can definitely tune into or attend. But Wednesday is the next day we're going to look at here on the calendar. And out of all these committees, there's only two of them where bills are being heard. And that's at 1:30 on Wednesday, January 22nd, the House Judiciary Committee in House Committee Room 107. So that's in the state capitol on the first floor. Looking at their agenda for the week, as you can see, more judiciary type stuff. So repeal co-payment for Department of Corrections inmate healthcare, communication rights for persons in custody, and ability to pay bond online clarifications. So those are some of the bills that are coming up here this Wednesday in the House Judiciary Committee. None of those really stick out too much to me, Michael. Is there anything you'd want to dig into and take a deeper look at?
I just want to point out 1026. You've got sponsor Lorena Garcia on there. Of course, she's gonna turn her attempt is to basically turn prison into what they tried to make prison out to be in The Office. I don't know if you ever saw that episode of where they basically tried to troll Michael into thinking that prison was a better work environment than his office at Dunder Mifflin, and that's what created Prison Mike. So if you're familiar with The Office, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But I know The Office isn't necessarily for everybody, but if you're into it, it's a hilarious episode. But but yeah, that's basically what she's trying to do here. She's trying to basically repeal every single possible thing that you have to pay for in prison. Um, you're in prison, it should not be nicer than living out in society. You should have to pay for the things that you have, uh, like your basic needs. I mean, I understand you're not making as much, so if you're in a correctional facility. That doesn't mean you should pay full price, but at the same time, I mean, that's understandable because you're not making hardly anything uh, off of prison revenue, but or from prison pay, but you should at least have to pay something.
I mean, that's a good point, Michael. They're serving their time. They're in jail. They've been convicted of a crime. It's not like they're, uh, you know, just relaxing, I guess, but it says so currently state law permits the Department of Corrections to charge inmates a copay for health services and caps the copay amount to $5. The bill repeals this authority and prohibits the Department of Corrections from charging copayments or late fees for any medical service. So, it was a really low amount, $3 or for a no-show fee, $3 copay or a $5 copay. So yeah, this bill would cost our state government $157,000. I imagine they had the copay there to kind of recoup some of the cost of this medical treatment. But no, the taxpayers need to be on the dime or on the hook for all of this money being spent for health care for people in prison. So that's another $157,000 that the taxpayers are accountable for, as opposed to getting the criminals or these people who are serving time in jail to pay those $5 copays.
Yeah,
So definitely interesting bill. And like, yeah, like you said, talk about red flags. You see Lorena Garcia's name on something, definitely, usually really a bad idea or a bad bill for sure.
absolutely.
On Wednesday, the other committee that's hearing some bills is the House Transportation, Housing, and Local Government Committee at 1:30 p.m. on Wednesday. And LSBA. LSB is across the south side of the state capitol. They do have two committee hearings there, LSBA and LSBB. So something to pay attention to there. Let's look at that agenda. So we're going to see a lot to do with housing this year, a lot to do with transportation, of course, mass transit, attacks on cars. I'm sure we're going to see more of that. We already are aware of at least one bill coming out that's going to potentially increase registration fees even higher. And of course, their state government, so many of these people down there in the legislature want to shove everybody into high density housing around mass transit corridors, create these basically 15-minute style cities. And it's really bad stuff. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at some of these bills, see if there's anything too interesting that people should be paying attention to. And for everybody just joining us on YouTube, we have Representative Brandy Bradley joining us in about 12 minutes at 8 o'clock. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Let's look at House Bill 1019, Third Party Administration of Division of Housing Programs. So it specifies that a third party contractor or grantee may administer a program in the Division of Housing in the Department of Local Affairs for persons experiencing homelessness. The division may negotiate reasonable administrative or project delivery costs for contractors or grantees to administer the program, in addition to the 5% retained by the division for program administration and oversight. So, I'm no fan of Emily Sirota and Nick Henriksen, but doesn't seem like too big of a bill here for people to be getting up in arms for. Let's look at the fiscal note and see what that's going to cost. So, doesn't really affect too much there, just allowing third party contractors to be hired to administer this homelessness program. So, interesting. Maybe a step in the right direction if they're allowing third party contractors to administer these homelessness programs on its behalf. Now, normally I would say that's a good thing. Normally I'd say, hey, get third party contractors, get private organizations in there to take the role of government away. But anybody who's been paying attention these last few years, we see that so many of these government programs just become cash cows or piggy banks for all these politically connected nonprofits. So you have all these NGOs, these third party groups, these nonprofits out there who are just collecting big bucks off the taxpayer dime to quote unquote solve these problems of homelessness, crime, etc., immigration, etc. And so often it doesn't seem to work right. So this is potentially a worrisome thing there where some of this money can potentially be going towards these nonprofits to administer homelessness programs. So we'll have to keep an eye on that and see how it goes.
And one thing I think it's important to point out with this bill is what's been going on with immigration the last couple of years in Colorado. We're a sanctuary state. Denver specifically is a sanctuary city. And we've seen a lot of NGOs that have popped up to help out a lot of these illegal immigrants that have come over who have been given legal status temporarily through through special programs. So I'm kind of concerned about what's going to happen when you really think about what's going to happen with the Trump administration and that fight overall. I mean, are is the money that's going to be given here in potentially in 1019 going to go to a lot of these organizations that are going to be possibly considered um, committing felonious offenses by harboring what some might call fugitives, particularly somebody like Tom Holman, who's going to be Trump's next immigration czar. How is this going to relate to that? Are they going to ban those funds, or are they going to, if not incentivize those funds going to these um, housing programs?
Yeah, definitely interesting to see. And there's such a bigger story to be told about all these nonprofits and all this money that goes to them. So interesting here. I really want to pay attention to who's testifying in support of this bill, who's lobbying for it. That's always tells part of the story. We'll get into that some other time where we can look up lobbyists and look up by bill number. Really, all you have to do is search Colorado Secretary of State lobbyist search. If you just type that into Google, you can search by bill number and you can type in any of these bills and see who's a registered lobbyist in support or opposition. Oftentimes that'll tell you more of the story because who's going to benefit, right? Who's going to financially benefit from bills like this? It's a good question, and the public does need to know. So a couple other bills, I think House Bill 1029. So this housing committee is huge, folks. This is a bill where a lot of action happens. Really important stuff. Andrew Bosnecker, terrible, terrible guy. He's one of the or the prime sponsors of the gun ban, and Kathy Kipp. Really unfortunate legislators there. So look at this bill, Michael, here. Current law grants municipality full police power and control, aka authority, over land that it acquires outside its municipal limits for use as parks, parkways, boulevards, or roads. The bill extends this authority to land that a municipality acquires for open space and natural areas and clarifies that it extends to all such acquired land, whether or not it is open or closed to the public. So interesting things there, you know. Um, if the city acquires it, I don't know why they wouldn't have uh, control over it, this authority over it to begin with. But very interesting to see that they have to create this new bill, this new law to extend that control over to open space and natural areas.
Yeah, I'm definitely concerned about this. I also find it ironic that the same people who talked about um, police reform would claim ACAB are suddenly loving the authority of the police and are trying to expand the power of police and police authority.
Oh yeah. So much of that talk where they pretend to be for criminal justice reform, it helps the criminals out, but it also empowers the government, like bills like this. So something to keep an eye on. One more bill to look at in this committee. Then we're going to get to our guest coming up here and get into some more of the details. But folks, there's only a few committee hearings this week with bills being heard. As we get later on in the session, we're going to be going through a lot more legislation, making you one of the most informed people in Colorado on state level politics. So we're going to give you some great information here. This is House Bill 1076, Motor Vehicle Regulation Administration. This looks like a pretty big bill here. It's got at least was that 11 sections in it. Let's take a look at the fiscal note. So that's a good tip for people. Click in the fiscal note and you can really see a more broken down summary that's a little bit easier to read, generally speaking. So this bill makes adjustments to the Department of Revenue, DOR, and Department of Motor Vehicles, DMV, policies regarding motor vehicle registration and state identification credentials. The bill prohibits a person from making or distributing a document that simulates an official document related to an individual's identification or the administration of motor vehicles unless the person received written permission from the DOR. The bill establishes vehicular document piracy as a civil infraction of a fine no more than $1,000. Interesting. Didn't know that that was a major issue there. Then also, this bill makes the Uniform Power of Attorney Act apply to motor vehicle documents. Repeals the requirement that a service-connected disability be permanent in order for a veteran to be eligible to register for a motor vehicle without fees. Repeals various license plates, including plates issued to foreign governments, consuls, or other official representatives of a foreign government. The Navy SEAL special license plate, the North American Aerospace Defense Command special license plate, and the Alive at 25 special license plate. Interesting. Beginning April 1st, 2026, allows any responsible adult to authorize a minor's driving log and adds advanced practice registered nurse to the list of medical professionals able to write an opinion on whether an applicant for a driver is physically or mentally able to safely operate a motor vehicle. So this is a big bill, folks. These bills are supposed to be single subject. It's really only supposed to deal with one thing, but this is a lot of things happening at once here.
Seems like it's unconstitutional to me.
You would think. And then this bill would also, starting January 1, 2026, authorize the use of a mobile driver's license, which is an official electronic extension of a physical identification document to verify age or identity. The bill requires the DOR to set criteria for the approval and implementation of mobile identification documents. So, of course, I'm very concerned about digital ID and that push that they're having. So, really unfortunate stuff there. Um, Interesting stuff. It also adjusts the effective date of a provision allowing an individual not lawfully present in the United States to apply for identification document. It was scheduled to take effect on January 1, 2027. Well, the bill changes the effective date to the earlier of January 1, 2027, or whenever the DOR is able to implement the provision. So lots of stuff going on. If people are interested in getting involved with motor vehicle regulation, that's an important bill to talk about or get involved with or dig a little deeper. But we're going to go ahead and jump over to our guest right now. We have our special guest joining us here. I'm going to stop screen sharing. And Representative Brandy Bradley, how are you this evening?
How's it going? Glad to be here.
Great. Yeah, really excited to talk to you. If you haven't met Michael before, Michael Vance is the legislative director of the Libertarian Party of Colorado.
It's good to meet you.
Okay.
I've been a fan for a while. You've been really taking it to the nasty legislators down at the Gold Dome, so I really appreciate your work.
Well, thanks.
So perfect. Yeah, we're really excited to hear about your bill. I know this is a big bill coming out, kind of a repeat of last year's bill. But what can you tell us about House Bill 25-1073, Protections Against Child Rape?
Well, there's a lot of misinformation out there. It's funny when the Democrats put forth bills about misinformation and disinformation, but then they like to put out a bunch of misinformation and disinformation. House Bill 25-1073 is just not allowing probation eligibility for people who rape children. I mean, it's just, it's amazing, right? That we allow child rapists to run the streets and be eligible for probation. So it's not anything about indeterminate sentencing. In fact, Senator Mike Weisman came to me yelling at me the other day, this is about indeterminate sentencing and we will not allow it. No, that's what is on our Colorado revised statutes. I didn't make up the indeterminate sentencing for sexual assault in the state of Colorado. That was way before me. This is already in the statutes. We are just removing the probation eligibility when you rape children in Colorado.
So right now you're saying that if somebody rapes a child, they can get probation?
Most get probation. About 1 in 100 go to prison after raping a child.
That is sickening and absolutely crazy. I can't believe, well, I guess I can believe it, unfortunately, but just shocking. Now, how is this similar to your bill from last year?
So last year, when the DAs came to testify against my bill to put people in jail who pander, solicit, or prostitute children, they said that that bill was not fair because if you rape a child in Colorado, you don't go to jail. So we said, okay, we will come back with the bill. Representative English is on this bill with me. She's my co-prime. If you rape a child, we will put you in jail, and then we will come back to the table for the prostituting of children. So we're back to the table, and now we don't have money. Well, we found the money, and now it's not fair to leave child rapists in jail while they're awaiting their sex offender treatment. And there's some more misinformation going on. There's about 168 people waiting for that sex offender treatment, but 168 of those people won't just get parole right after they get that treatment. That's another misinformation, red herring piece that the judiciary Democrats are speaking about. Out of 168 of those people, there's probably 3 that will be on a wait list unfairly. And so we're really seeking to try to fix that injustice, basically.
Wow. I mean, how do you think this bill will fare this year? Do you think you have better odds of getting it passed than maybe previous efforts?
Well, it didn't go to state affairs, so that's a step in the right direction. Regina is actually printed on the bill. That's a step in the right direction. And I'm a whole heck of a lot more vocal than I was last year. And I will be doing a press release and we will be calling for a lot of media attention. Now, we know Kyle Clark isn't going to give us any. I don't know why the liberal media won't defend the children of Colorado. I thought it was a free state for all, but apparently for children, it's not. So I'm just trying to figure out who it's a free state for at this point.
It's a free state for Jared Polis. It's the free state of Colorado to him.
You're right, Michael. And for the Democrats.
Yeah. Still makes my blood boil that that Jared Polis is starting to call. He's basically stealing Brandon's whole thing, free state of Colorado. It's absolutely ridiculous. But I got a question for you. I know last year you ran into a lot of trouble because you were not able to make your bill a bipartisan bill. This year you were able to get Representative English on, but you still have one hurdle, and that is as of now, you don't have a Senate prime sponsor. Do you know if what kind of headway you're making in order to get that Senate sponsor? Uh, because this is something I'd really love to see advance all the way through.
Janice Rich is a Senate sponsor.
Oh,
Just and
sorry.
oh, that's okay. It's just on the bill paper, and she asked Senator Weissman, who quoted a bunch of misinformation, and so I made sure to call him and make sure that he was aware that he quoted a bunch of misinformation on the House floor. We're going to talk to Dylan Roberts, and there's a couple of other senators that we're reaching out to, and the people that don't want to be on this bill, I'll make sure that the community and the people of Colorado know that they didn't want to be on this bill and that child safety is not a priority for them.
Wow. Yeah, it's absolutely shocking. I mean, it's unfortunate. I guess not too surprising for people who've been paying attention that so many of these Democratic legislators are not willing to take protecting kids seriously. So really applaud you for the efforts, your determination and persistence here fighting for kids in Colorado against sexual predators. What what else can you tell us, Representative Bradley? You're so outspoken, you're so honest. You always talk about the reality of what's happening in our legislature. What do Coloradans need to know? What's maybe some assumptions that they have that are wrong, or some information that people really aren't aware of what really goes on in our state capitol?
Well, I think first you have to know there's a state capitol and state representatives and senators. I mean, right there, right? I think we do a disservice to not teaching children about civics and government in the first place. I think that it's a two-arm branch in the state of Colorado. I think that Jared Polis controls the legislative branch, and that's unfortunate. I think that there's more Democrats this year coming forward. Jimmy Joseph is going to get on my digital media bill, and that's banning third-party vendors from having adult content on our children's Chromebooks. I mean, there's no reason that vaping ads and porn ads and even gun ads should be popping up on second graders' Chromebooks. I mean, it's a small step to get the porn industry out of our children's learning environment. And so I'm really excited about that bill passed unanimously out of the House. And then Stephanie Veal, if you remember, took all of my bills hostage because I was mean on X. So we will see if we can get that bill going out of the Senate. So
Awesome,
And
great. Yeah, really. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, how is Stephanie Vigil doing this legislative session, by the way?
she called me a bigot the other day on Facebook, and I told her I hope she gets the help she needs. She has 2 years to really take some time off and think about her actions and why she's not out this year.
That's very true. That's very true. She would commonly discuss how she would legislate from her trauma, and a lot of real crazy bills came out of that trauma. And I'm very sad for the life that she had before right now, but she can't let her past trauma ruin the lives of Coloradans today and in the future, particularly children.
Well, I think that we all come from hard upbringings at times. I came from a very violent household. I'm not trying to ruin the parental rights of the people of Colorado or healthcare freedom or things like that. I mean, that's not what you get into the legislative body, is to have power over the people of Colorado. You're supposed to go and represent your constituents. And by trying to bring forward trans activism and usurping women's rights and safe spaces for girls, that's not doing it. So she's sitting at home and she needs to maybe reflect on that.
100%.
Well, another big topic, Representative Bradley, that's come up recently is, this ownership by foreign governments of land in the United States. Of course, the whole TikTok issue of, Chinese government owning a social media platform or having control over it. So last year, I know you ran a bill to prohibit foreign governments from owning like farmland and land in Colorado. Is there any chance of something like that coming back?
The only reason, and I was on that with Representative Routenell, obviously for different reasons. I've run it for 2 years in a row. I've met with our governor, and he looked me in the eyes and said, "How do you know that's happening in the state of Colorado?" And I said, "Well, I think everyone knows, except for you, that it's happening in the state of Colorado. We're the third largest Chinese owned land mass in the United States. We're just behind Maine and Texas. And I think with Trump I was really thinking Trump was going to get into office. I think that he is going to mandate from a federal level that we at least have to start tracking it. Somebody posted that on my X page the other day. I think that the biggest influx is Chinese aged military men that have come in across the border illegally. We are a national security risk on so many different levels, and Colorado has just opened arms with all of these things. That's why I did an interview and said that we have told California to hold our beer. We have so many national security risks. I think that those are the things people of Colorado should understand. It's not just homelessness. I mean, we have so many Chinese owned land, Smithfield, you name it. And those are the people we weren't going after. We were going after international sponsors of terror, Iran, China, Cuba, what President Biden had deemed, sponsors of terrorism. We were going really after Canada, although Routenell really wanted no one from other countries owning land in Colorado. You can't buy 500 acres in China. Why are we allowing this to happen? Because Democrats legislate with their feelings, right? And so with that becomes a public safety issue for the people of Colorado.
Now, what if we're not going to be able to get a total ban on buying land excuse me, if we're not going to be able to get a total ban on foreign nationals buying land within Colorado, what are some other steps we could possibly take that's maybe not, plan A, but maybe B, C, or D, so that way we could really help protect the sovereignty of Colorado and the security of Coloradans?
Well, I think the small step would just be registering. I mean, we have no clue. The state of Colorado has zero clue how much they own in our state. We don't register them, we don't track it. We have just said it's a free for all in our state, and probably 30 other states at least ban it altogether. But others at least have taken the small steps of at least tracking it or having them register with the Secretary of State. So we at least know A, where the land is, and B, how much land they own. And we don't do any of that. It's just a guesstimate at this point.
So my next question would be from a more liberties perspective. How do we secure that registration while maintaining freedom for individual Coloradans, so that way we're protecting their privacy?
Well, I'm all about that. You're not an international sponsor of terrorism, and then we don't make you register. I mean, it's only fair, right? I can't buy farmland in China. My children
Mhm.
can't buy farmland in China. We know that farmers are aging out in our state. That is a big a food security issue. It's not just national threats against our Army, Navy, Air Force. I mean, food security is a huge risk right now, as we're seeing all across our country and in other nations. So don't be an international sponsor of terror and we won't track you, right?
Fair point there. Representative Bradley, everybody's paying attention to the firearms bill, Senate Bill 3. There's some other big ones coming up. Is there anything else people should be really paying attention to and we should be trying to rally the troops to go speak in opposition to or start reaching out to our representatives about? Any other bills maybe that are flying under the radar that you're concerned about?
I pulled some of the bills, not right now. I mean, obviously, enforcement of the wage hour laws is a big one that's going to go against small businesses. When you see your governor up there during the State of the State begging people like Mabry, oh, I'm so sorry, people like Mabry and Duran and others come to the table with employees and employers. I say it all the time. You're not going to have employees if you don't have employers. We own a small business. If you remove the bedrock of the foundation of this country and the state, then we already know 25% of small businesses closed during COVID. You continue to regulate 6 months regulated state, continue to push these regulations, you're going to continue to force businesses out. So I think the price gouging one, I think you guys got to rally around this price gouging. This is going to destroy the free market. This is going to destroy capitalism. If everyone has to sell the same thing at the same cost, I mean, who makes up the cost? This should be a huge one on the libertarians' radar. This is a horrible bill by a horrible communist. I have a retail theft bill coming. You want to take down the prices to consumers? The thought process is that King Soopers and Safeway make billions of dollars. We know that that's not true. We know that if Macy's was making hundreds of millions of dollars, they wouldn't be closing up shop and leaving Colorado. We know Kohl's wouldn't be closing up shop. We know Walgreens wouldn't be closing up shop. And when they leave our state, hundreds of people are without jobs. So if we can control the theft analysis and that sort of thing, then we can control the cost price and we can keep some of these great retailers in our state. And so I think that we've got to rally around some of these bills. I cannot get a Democrat on that retail theft bill. It is like banging my head against the table. They have it in their minds that retailers are billionaires and that the price of eggs and the price of Levi jeans are high because Macy's CEO is a billionaire. And, price gouging apparently is the answer to all of their problems.
You bring up a good point, considering the hot topic of eggs these days. If we had price gouging legislation in effect to the extent that they want to make it into effect, we probably wouldn't even have any eggs on the shelves of our local grocers, if you really think about it, because they would say the price has gone up too far because it has gone up too high, but at least we can buy them if we need them. And the problem is it's really difficult for struggling families to get eggs, but it's better to have some eggs than no eggs.
I agree. They're going to destroy everything that's good. They're going to destroy our economy. I mean, you see what we are. Common Sense Institute just came out with all of their statistics. We are struggling. We are $1 billion shortfall right now. If you count the certificates, we're about $5 billion shortfall. And we're just going to continue to spend like my 17-year-old with his debit card who does not understand if there's not money in the bank, you cannot spend it. I think my 11-year-old could run this state better than most people I work with.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it bugs me to no end, this quote unquote budget shortfall they keep talking about. Clearly they're trying to set up this idea of going after the taxpayers' Bill of Rights, Tabor. They want to say we don't have enough money, we don't have money. Well, maybe if they stop spending so much, maybe if they cut their costs just like everybody else has to, everybody else has to live on a budget, then maybe we wouldn't be in such a dire economic situation.
Can I tell you something, Brandon? I'm reviewing, since I'm the ranking member, I'm reviewing all the stuff coming to Health and Human Services. Okay. One, I don't have an agenda. I have an agenda, but I have none of the department's notes or their presentation. We're meeting on Tuesday. It is Sunday night. I have nothing from them. You think they don't have their presentation? They have their presentation. But I will tell you, HICPA, healthcare policy, is asking for $17 billion this fiscal year. They're asking for a 9% increase. And you want me to tell you what they're asking for? They're asking for $27 million to take care of children lacking access due to their in healthcare due to their immigration status. $27 million for children that are lacking healthcare due to their immigration status. We're asking for another 51 million, for behavioral health. And then the Child Health Plan Plus, we're asking for $56 million or $6 million, $17 billion, 9% growth. And we're in a $1 billion budget shortfall. And this is just one. This is just TikTok right here. And I still don't have the presentation from all of the different, from DORA, from DOLA, from Health and Human Services. I don't have early childhood. I don't have any of those things that all of our community members can go ask questions about because it's an open hearing. So this is the way that we govern in the state of Colorado, the free state of Colorado.
Yeah, that's definitely discouraging, especially because you're one of the lawmakers, you're the ranking member, and you have other lawmakers who are supposed to be making these decisions and have all the information at hand, and they're not getting it to you when they need to, and then just what they're asking for is just totally outrageous. I mean, asking for so much in these dire times. I mean, where do they expect the money to come from?
There's a money, you didn't know that? There's a money trade, only for Democrats, though, not for child rape. We can't put them in jail, but we can spend $27 million on illegal immigrant children. So just so you know.
Wow, wow. That's craziness for sure. We got a question in the chat here. Mike Dickerson's asking, Representative Bradley, what, in your opinion, does a conservative candidate need to do to secure a governor win in 2026?
Oh, that is a great question. I know several people that are thinking about running. It's money, right? I mean, they outspend us. The Democrats outspend us 10 to 1. When are conservatives going to step up to the plate and put their money where their mouth is? When is it when they take our children? Is it when they take our guns all the way? I mean, when is the line in the sand? I keep asking this question. When is the line in the sand enough for people to send that check or to come to the Capitol and testify? I mean, that gun bill, Senate Bill 3, if there is not standing room and people waiting in the overfill room, I will be so disappointed in the people of Colorado. I don't know what to say. I think a conservative can win again, but we've got to have funding and we have to have the people standing behind them. Unfortunately, it takes money. It takes money to fight the billionaires of Stryker and Soros and Polis and all of the evilness behind them.
Yeah, well said. Definitely the money component I think is huge. And then if they have the media on their side, they got the money in the bank, and they have a network and an army of activists that have been trained for decades and have this total organization. I mean, that's how they do it.
Right.
No,
Michael, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
oh no, you're good. Uh, Regarding the last few years, I mean, we were able to fight back as a state and take away the supermajority in the House for the for the House for the Democrats. Uh, what would you say we need to be doing over the next 2 years so that way we can, I'm not going to say, take over the House, Republicans take back the House, but what do you think that the Republicans need to do over the next 2 years to really make another significant uh, gain within the legislature in 2026?
Well, I'll tell you, in the last 2 years, actually in the last 5 years, I was fighting school boards by myself. I think it starts with local control, school boards, water boards, library boards. We have to make sure those local boards are taken care of. It starts at the very local control level. And then I think that we really have to get the message out. I think what you guys are doing with Free State Colorado is huge. Social media has become so great with Elon taking over, even with Mark Zuckerberg. I think that he's 5 years too late, but I love to see, him kind of backtracking and doing what is supposed to be done. TikTok, I think, is a great way for people to get the word out as well, as far as voting and having freedom of speech. And I think that there's a lot of legislators like me that are mama bears and papa bears that I don't need this job. I'm here to fight for my constituents and to do what's right and to get the word out through newsletters, through conservative radio, through press releases. And I don't think that we saw that even 2 years ago, 4 years ago. I don't think people were aware of the problems that were happening at the state house and state senate. And I think that we are seeing that more and more. I think door knocking is very important. I think connecting with your constituents through town halls and just connecting with them. I don't let anyone answer my emails or my phone. I connect with all my constituents. I just talked to a farmer late last night about prescription medicine, and he could not believe that I was calling him back on a Saturday night. I think it's the connection. Church today was all about community, and I think that we have to establish that community because I just feel like so many Coloradans do not think that their voices are being heard. So I think if we can establish that community and let them know they are being heard and that we are fighting for them, I think we've had too many wishy-washy legislators that weren't listening and they just came up here because they got voted in and weren't fighting. And now you have a lot of people that own small businesses and have to feed a family of six. And we are getting crushed by the Democrat policies that are killing the rest of Colorado. So I think you need people that are ready to fight and want to fight for the people of Colorado because we're experiencing the same thing.
Wow, well said. 100% there. So we talked about some of the bad bills, some of the bills to pay attention to. What are some other good, is there any other good bills that people should be excited about or any positives? I'm really hopeful and optimistic about your House Bill 1073 to protect children, but are there any other bills that you think maybe are going to be a net positive for Colorado that people can at least have a little bit of optimism for?
Well, I think Ty is running a definition of nuclear energy and definition of meat. I think that those are all really good programs, to kind of slam back at this green energy type of thing. We know nuclear energy is very clean. It's funny. I was reading through some of the stuff for Smart Act hearings, and they keep taking from severance tax. And I'm like, if you don't have oil and gas, you don't have severance tax. So I think we keep demanding that they stop attacking our oil and gas industry. I mean, it's very, very crucial to Colorado and to the severance tax and what we pay for. I have another great bill for it's called Simon's Law in the state of Colorado and many states. Doctors, there's a gray area whether doctors and other medical providers can sign DNRs for children. So we're going to make sure that parents, their rights aren't usurped by that. And I'm hopeful to have some Democrat sponsorship for medical freedom and for parental rights. I think there's a lot of repeal acts. You guys know that Ryan Gonzalez is running some great bills. He's been a fierce advocate. I love having him. He's a fighter like me. And Dan Woog is running some really good stuff. And Stephanie Luck and civil asset forfeiture for Ken DeGraff and election integrity. And, all the things that we really try to sit together and talk about that we think that the people of Colorado would want to see their legislators tackle. And so I think that you guys are going to see a good mix of bills that we're really trying to get through. Now, whether or not that they do, I can't tell you, but I think that we've really gone to the drawing board and are trying to make good decisions to try to make Colorado a more affordable, safer place for all of us to live. So
Yeah, I'd say that I'm really excited this year. I think the Republican caucus is doing a great job of differentiating themselves from the Democrats, coming out with all these posts on social media and press conferences talking about repealing these fees, of how much these costs have increased for Colorado families, and how they have a plan to push back, a plan to repeal these fees. And it creates this real clear distinction that the Republicans this year are really paying attention to what people are struggling with, which is affordability. So I definitely need to applaud the efforts of the House and Senate Republicans for that, and hope that trend continues.
I just think you're going to see a newer trend. I think we're way more organized. I think that we have the vision because we're parents and we're getting crushed as well. We understand that property taxes are out of control. We understand that prescription drug costs are out of control. We understand healthcare is out of control. We live here. We understand what everyone, rural and urban, we understand. And so we're willing to fight. I mean, I have nothing to lose. So other than fighting for my constituents. And, I didn't take a Senate seat because I feel like my job was in the House and the people elected me to stay in the House. And so I think you'll find a really good mix of people ready to fight for their constituents. And we're about to have some battles and we're ready for them. We're very organized. So
Rep Bradley, you just brought up your constituents. I wanted to know what your relationship is with your constituents. From what I've seen, you seem like you've been a fighter. I know you've gone to a lot of city council meetings. You really took it to your local jurisdiction as well as you have on the state level. So I'm just kind of curious, what kind of response, what kind of feedback do you get directly from your constituents one on one?
well, I get a lot of positive emails. I have a great newsletter that I have a great team behind me, and we try to send out a lot of information. Now, there's a lot of people that don't agree with some of the stuff. There's a lot of people that are not for guns. There's a lot of people that think that boys should be playing in girls' sports, so that you're not going to get along with everyone. But in the scheme of things, I passed a great high acuity bill for kids with severe behavioral needs, so they don't have to go out of the state. We passed some good language access bills so that kids aren't ripped out of their parents' homes because they don't understand the language and put in foster care. Some people just come on just to fight, but I would say the majority know that I'm there for the things that I said I was going to fight for, and that was affordability and public safety and parental rights and healthcare freedom and all the things that I ran on. And so door knocking's fun, town halls are fun. I like being out there, I like going to meetings, and I love meeting people. I think that that's what we're paid to do, and I think that that's the job that we're supposed to do, is connect with our constituents and never lose sight of that. I think that sometimes people lose sight of that, and we should never do that. We are working for the people. So
Very well said.
Awesome. Well, really excited about your bill. We'll definitely be keeping people informed. Every Sunday night at 7:30, we do this live stream, kind of talking about the bills of the week, trying to encourage people to get involved, to show up at the committee hearings, to have those conversations with their representatives and senators, and really participate, because that's what we need. Like you were saying, Representative Bradley, is we got to have this participatory aspect to get involved and having a say in what's supposed to be this representative government. So I think that's so important, like you said, that people are paying attention, whether it's on social media, showing up to committee hearings, going to town halls, getting involved that way. But what else can people do to support you, to get involved, to make Colorado a true free state? What, I know you talked about local elections, and I want to echo what somebody said in the comment, that local elections are the most important. 100% agree with that. But any other words of advice for people that they can take to really make us a true free state, Colorado?
I mean, come visit us. Come see for yourself what is happening. It is the taxpayer's home. Come watch your rights and liberties being taken. I think that people would be floored to see the discussions that are held on the House floor. I mean, you just saw Representative Clifford and some of you guys going after each other about the gun bill. I mean, they are literally confused about what Tabor does and what our gun rights are and what the Second Amendment. But I tell my 11-year-old came home, you guys will love this, and he said, Mom, I don't understand what's so confusing about the Second Amendment. I said, honey, they don't even understand the First Amendment. We haven't even gotten to the Second Amendment. I mean, they can't understand the right to assemble peacefully. So I would love, we can have guests on the floor sitting with us. Come, you are paying for the State House. Come to committees, come listen in and take notes and understand what is happening in your state. Trump has won, that is awesome, but they are going to fight, I believe, even harder to try and keep control in Colorado. They know that they're losing and they are panicked. And I think we should have guests there every day sitting with us, Brandon, honestly. I mean, if you have a couple of hours, come sit with us and we'll make it happen. And meet your legislators that are fighting so hard. Get to know us. Come have coffee with us. Come sit in our office. We are the people fighting for you, and we would love to know all of the people out there that want to help represent us and be in the fight with us.
Speaking of that, what would you say the best way to recruit people to come speak in committee, come to committee hearings, come to the well and watch the proceedings live? What would you say the best way to get people involved in those actions would be?
That's a great question. I mean, you can follow different newsletters. I think that I've gotten a lot of really good feedback on my newsletters. Follow me on social media. I can put that out there. But, Rep Bottoms and Rep DeGraff just did like a mock trial of what a committee hearing was. And they got a lot of really good feedback. And Alicia Garcia and I were talking about maybe doing one of those before this gun bill comes in. So if your viewers are excited about that and that interests them, I will put one on. I'll put one on at my house and we can all get together and show what it's like. Because I think that maybe people get nervous about coming and testifying in front of a committee. It is invigorating to sit there and look them in the eyes when they're trying to take away your right to defend yourself and your family, and have 2 minutes to say, you will not do these things because I am constitutionally protected and these are my rights and you will not do that. So if it's just getting over the fear of doing that, then let's have a mock trial, or let's go over what it looks like, or let me bring you guys to a committee room and sit you down and show you where the microphone is and how to push the button. I mean, listen, I'm a sophomore legislator now, but even 2 years ago I was scared to death. I didn't even know what I was doing. So let's get the fear out of the way, because this is way more important. This is a state you're going to leave to your children and your grandchildren. So let's take the fear out of that. And if that's something I can do by taking you guys into a committee room and showing you what to do, sign me up. I'll do it in a heartbeat.
One last thing I want to ask you real quick. Sorry about that. A lot of things. I don't know if you're familiar with the term white pill, black pill, red pill, blue pill, all that, but basically, black pill essentially means you're completely disenchanted, you have zero hope. What is something that you could tell somebody who has zero hope, has no belief in their voice, has no belief that they can actually say something to a legislature that might change their mind? What would you say to that individual?
Oh man, I think you always have hope. We just won 3 seats in a congressional seat, and they said we weren't going to win a single thing. They said Trump wasn't going to win; he won by a landslide. But I'll tell you, my biggest thing came from Rich Guggenheim of Gays Against Groomers. I was like, why am I doing this? Why did I leave a six-figure job, leave my family? I'm at the Capitol at 2 a.m. I'm getting $21 per diem, gas, whatever. And he called me the other day and said that Nancy Mace picked up my women in athletics bill, and they're going to use that to write a federal bill to protect women in athletics. So you just never know. You never know who you're going to affect. You never know what person that's sitting next to you scared to death. When I went to school board meetings, I was by myself. I was sitting there writing, what I was going to say. And after months of that, I entered into a lawsuit. We took down Tri County and Douglas County, and it just kept falling. And now I ran for House District 39. You have no idea what God's plan is for you. You have no idea what a 2 minute speech is going to turn into, and never ever lose hope when you're fighting for something that you believe in.
Well said.
Yeah, extremely well said. Representative Bradley, we appreciate you so much. Appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Any final thoughts? Any final words?
I mean, we have one life at this, you guys. We have one life to take back our state. The time is now. Stop sitting on the sidelines. You have a bunch of people that are ready to fight with you. You are not alone like I was 5 years ago sitting in a school board room. Whatever I need to do, Brandon, put my phone number, cell phone number in the chat. They can call me anytime. I will always be available. So let's get the fear out the window and let's fight for our rights and our liberties that was given to us by our founding fathers. And let's keep our state. It's blue now, but the pendulum always swings. When I was at the Pro Family Legislative Network, I stood up to Glenn Beck and I said, what is the point in fighting? Colorado is allowing all these bad things to happen. And I had legislators from Arkansas and South Carolina, and they were like, we were a deep blue state. I mean, Clinton is from our state, and we are deep red now. There's always hope. But if we're not going to fight, if we're a black pill and we're not going to fight, and we're just going to sit back and let them just take all of our liberties away, then there's no point. I believe in the state of Colorado. I have 4 children here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to continue to fight for this state. So I need some people to help me with that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking the time. Great words of advice. I'm pumped up. I'm inspired. I'm ready to let's take the fight to them and yeah, let's make this a real free state here.
Let's go.
And I appreciate what both you and Michael are doing. Thank you guys so much. And everyone that's taken the time on a Sunday night to be on, thank you guys so much. I appreciate all of you, honestly. So thank you.
We really appreciate all of your hard work down at the Capitol. I know it's not easy, but we definitely notice.
Well, thank you. I'll keep fighting.
Awesome. Awesome.
Uh,
Awesome. Thank you. Perfect. Take care, and we'll talk to you sometime soon. I'm sure Representative Bradley, let us know any other important things we should be focusing on going forward. So thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Well, great stuff from Representative Bradley. Definitely very inspiring, very passionate, a true fighter down there. Like she was saying, she doesn't have to be there. She doesn't have to take the time to do it, but she's fighting for all of us, and we just need more people in the fight, more people to show up and get involved. Any thoughts on that, on what Representative Bradley was saying there, Michael?
I just got excited listening to her speak. I mean, we need everybody we can to fight. And
100.
and if yeah, and if you think, it's not going to matter, it doesn't, yeah, whatever I say is not going to, change anything. You never know until you actually fight. And then at the end of the day, years down the road, you're going to regret that you didn't give more than you, and when you know you absolutely could have.
Definitely, at least do everything you can. As long as you can say, "Hey, I did everything in my power. I did everything I could," then you can at least be content with that. But if there's something you left unsaid, left undone, then it makes it a lot more difficult that way. So, people, we have another great guest joining us here in 10 minutes. We have Natalie Menten to talk about Senate Bill 5, which is a really important bill, the public union or the unions bill, not just public unions, but all unions across Colorado. So something we definitely want to be very aware of, something we need people to go testify this week. So let's just pull that back up here real quick in preparation for Natalie joining us here, Michael. So you can go to the legislative website, people. This is where you want to be. Legislative website. We can look at the schedule session schedule. It's going to be on Tuesday in the Senate Business, Labor, and Technology Committee there. So that's going to be 2 p.m. on Tuesday. So if anybody has time on Tuesday, please show up down at the state capitol. It's in the old Supreme Court. So that's on, I want to say, is that the third floor or it's the second or third floor? I can never remember, but it's the third floor, I think, of the state legislature, the state capitol. Can't miss it. Old Supreme Court, very obvious where it's at once you get in there. But you definitely want to show up and speak if possible. You can do remote testimony as well. So people were asking, how do you do remote testimony? So if you're on the legislative website, hold your cursor over this committees tab or this little committees menu at the top. This is the easiest way to find it, where it says committees. Go down to public testimony options. So click on public testimony options. It's really that easy. You can sign up with for a Zoom doing that. You can sign up to testify in person. You can submit written testimony, which you definitely should do if you can't do the other ones. Of course, your number one choice should be to meet in person. Do Zoom if you can't, or if you're not in Denver, or submit written testimony. But really, it's that easy to sign up. So say you say, okay, I want to go into Zoom. You can click on it next, and then it'll ask you how you want to find it or how you want to find that committee hearing. And you can say by sponsor and bill. So you can select a sponsor, you can click on all their names, you can click on all their the hearing items, the dates. You can go back, you can go by hearing items. So maybe you just know the bill number, for example. So, for example, we know this is going to be Senate Bill 5 in the Senate Business Committee here. So let's find it. There it is. Senate Business, Labor, and Technology, Senate Bill 5, Worker Protective Collective Bargaining. Click on that, tells you when it is. You can click next and then just put your information in there. You can put pronouns if you want. You can put if you're for or against the bill, who you represent, your name and email, and then you sign up. It's that easy to sign up to testify remotely. If you have time, please try and testify remotely. Testify in person if you can, and think about it too. I mean, you go down there in person, talk to Representative Bradley, meet some of the other legislators, find these freedom fighters, spend some time. They'll give you some time to talk to you about what's going on, especially if you're there to support good legislation.
Well,
So
yeah.
just looking at, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
You brought up something interesting. You can talk to the legislators down at the Capitol. I mean, they walk the same hallway as you do. You can go up to them, talk to them, introduce yourself, and have some discussions uh, on the bill or the bills that you heard in committee. That's one of the unique things about going to a committee is they have a list of bills. They go through one by one each bill. Everybody has the opportunity to testify, and at that moment they might add an amendment, uh, and they might vote on the amendment. And then after they're done voting on the amendments, done hearing all the public testimony, then they actually vote on whether or not to kill the bill or pass the bill onto the committee of whole. So, or the cow that you might hear of. Um, so, and then when that's done, you can go talk to them. So please talk to them. I mean, you can build great relationships with those elected officials. So, highly encourage you go down there and testify in person if possible.
100%. And it being in person too, you can meet other people. I mean, you can meet some freedom fighters. You can say, hey, you're here to testify against this anti-gun bill, or you're here to testify in support of civil asset forfeiture reform, something that you maybe care about. And then all of a sudden now you have a network. You have a network of people that you can be in touch with regarding these legislative issues. And all of a sudden now you're a little bit more powerful than you were otherwise. So really encourage people to show up. So if anybody has time on Tuesday, this January 21st at 2 p.m., the Senate Business, Labor, and Technology Committee, It's in the old Supreme Court. You can click on the agenda here, and this is the only bill being heard. Now, it's a big bill. There's going to be a lot of union people down there. There's going to be a lot of different people involved in hearing this bill. So just showing up in person too, you get such an education about how the process works, how these individuals operate, kind of who's behind some of these bills, who's supporting it, who's opposing it, kind of gives you the rest of the story. And of course, you can look for the lobbyists we were discussing earlier. So we'll have Natalie Menten here join us just shortly to go over this. She's a very much a political expert when it comes to Colorado politics, and very interesting stuff. So that's the rest of the agenda for tonight. We'll hear from Natalie about Senate Bill 5, and then we're going to go into the bills that we're tracking, some of the big bills we've seen so far during this legislative session. So the legislative website, if you find a bill, you can really see all the bills. It's really interesting to see the most accessed bills, and then you can see all of the bills. So right now, they're not all out yet, right? The legislative session has just started. There's only 154 bills. And I say only, that's a lot. Don't get me wrong. It's impossible to think that everybody, all these 100 legislators can read through all of these bills, understand them, have good discussion, and vote on them. 154 of them seems like a stretch in a 120-day legislative session, but we're expecting to be 600, 700 bills this year. So
And
really
that,
only 100. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, didn't Rep DeGraff say that there were 700 out of a possible 500 that were introduced last legislative session?
Definitely, yeah. There was yeah, because each legislator only gets 5 bills that they can introduce, but then there's certain bills that come out of different committees, or they're trying to come out of the joint budget committee that can be added to as well, added to the calendar. So, yeah, we had 700 bills last year, 500 something passing. We're only at 154 are out so far. So we got a long list of bills we're keeping an eye on, but we're definitely going to be um, keeping an eye on all these new bills that are coming out. A lot of stuff hasn't come out yet, so we're going to be giving you the information every week that you can have to make an impact, to have your voice heard down at the state capitol. So perfect. Definitely also want to encourage people to show up to Liberty on the Rocks. Mike Dickerson's asking there in the chat if Michael, if you're going to be there at Liberty on the Rocks. We have the Fort Collins Liberty on the Rocks this coming Wednesday, and then Colorado Springs Liberty on the Rocks this coming Thursday. So lots of great opportunities for people to meet other liberty-minded individuals.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if I'll be able to make this one, but here in a couple weeks I want to go. I mean, I love going to Liberty on the Rocks. What Josh and Kara are doing is phenomenal. We need more Liberty meetups, and that's what's awesome of that. They've been spreading it out. Brandon is running a Northern Colorado one. I know Colorado Springs has one, and then I even heard that Granby is potentially having one, is starting one up. So I'm very interested about the Granby Killdozer Liberty on the Rocks meetup.
Yeah, that would be interesting and fun to attend as well. Um, Perfect. So this is the Business, Labor, and Technology Committee that's meeting here this Tuesday at 2 p.m. They meet every Tuesday at 2 p.m. in the old Supreme Court. So once you kind of are familiar with these committee hearings, you kind of know the people on them, you know where they're meeting, when they meet. They have pretty set schedule, at least through the most of the legislative session. Those last week can be a little crazy. But you can see, Henriksen is no friend to liberty. Mark Baisley is probably one of our more pro-liberty legislators down there. We have Faith Winter, Mark Catlin, Jesse Danielson, Iman Jode, who just became a senator through a vacancy appointment, Chris Hansen's seat. And then, or no, that was the other seat. I'm sorry, not Chris Hansen's, but I don't remember. But and then Senator Larry Liston down there. So it's interesting to know these different committee hearings when they meet. You can click in and look at the agenda, and that worker protective collective bargaining is what we're going to be talking about here. But just to read the overview, we're waiting for Natalie to join here. The bill eliminates the requirement for employees to conduct a second election to negotiate a union security agreement clause in the collective bargaining process. So very reduction in appropriations for the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment. So very minimal change there in terms of that. But let's go ahead and let Natalie join us here, and she can give us some more of the details there. So we got Natalie Menten. If you are not familiar, Natalie is one of Colorado's Liberty leaders. She's definitely somebody who has been in the fight for a long time, has gotten involved in a variety of things, whether it's our taxpayers' Bill of Rights, fighting for the taxpayers in Jefferson County, and of course down at the state capitol. So it looks like Natalie, you're on the Zoom, but it looks like you're muted and your camera's off.
There we go. Sorry, having
Hey.
some electricity problems.
Oh, really? Any losing some electricity down there?
Yeah, be not the public service. So anyway, with all that, I'm here
Wow.
sitting
Well, really
by my fireplace, ready to talk about a collective bargaining bill. I think is what we're going to talk about, right?
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So really appreciate you taking the time, Natalie, especially with having a power outage with this terrible storm we have going on. But yeah, what can you tell us about? Yeah, go ahead.
No, you don't need to know about my household electricity. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so we did a video recently, just this last month. Really, people encourage people to watch about public unions versus taxpayers. But really, we're seeing this big bill. This is one of the big fights this year down at the state capitol. One of the first bills to get on the schedule, and this is Senate Bill 5, which would eliminate the requirement for a second election to basically create this union security agreement. Tell us about this, Natalie. What does this mean?
Yeah. So we have a long-standing agreement called the Peace Labor Peace Act. It's been standing for a long time and includes this. We're a modified right to work state in Colorado. So there's some states where they are in the same situation as we are. We have an agreement basically where if a bargaining group, a union, is going to get formally recognized, there's two votes that have to take place. The first one is a simple majority, which is more of a voluntary system. The second vote means that you would be required to be part of the union. Dues would be taken out of your paycheck, regardless of your opinion about the union, whether you want to join or not. So it's forced unionization. This bill, Senate Bill 25-005, will repeal the second vote, which is what, again, requires the unionization. In that case, right now, it takes a supermajority vote of the workers. And I'm speaking not only of the public sector, but also private. And so with Senate Bill 5, this would be extreme change. I believe it will bring, what really occurs is here, the union is able to get the home addresses of the employees and go out and pressure these employees to join the union. And that's part of the deal. It's not a transparent process with the existing unionization as it is. So the amount of problems that are going to be presented if this bill proceeds will be tremendous. And the video you and I did not too long ago focused especially on the impact of where those dollars go to. And what ends up occurring, while people are thinking, okay, I'm going to be part of a union and I get represented and there's a front man to go to the boss and tell him, hey, give me this or I'm going to quit. But the reality is those dues, whatever percentage they may be, go to political campaigns. And they don't go to support Republicans. Not that I've seen. They are also, in the case of ballot issues, generally going to support tax increases or more debt. So even if you're a conservative worker, fiscally conservative, and you don't want to be paying more in taxes, your part of your paycheck would be going to advance those type of proposals. So there's just, if this bill passes, and there's a lot of opposition to it, but the Democrats have been pushing this and pushing it. So there's a lot of opposition to this. This bill is coming up. I hope you can get that on the screen because I can't get my electricity in that room where the computer is. But the bill is coming up for hearing this week. And if folks can chime in virtually, because most people especially might be concerned are workers, employers, those who are going to be all of a sudden have really almost a hostile workplace if this should get enacted. Now, Governor Polis has indicated that he is not willing to get rid of that second vote, but the way he has spoken about it implies that he would be open to, knowing he doesn't control it at this moment. One, he said, well, I'll be interested to basically see what kind of negotiations you might come up with between the unions and the business groups, commerce, the backbone of our economy. And I think some of these compromises, trying to think through what were things that they're going to try to plug in. Well, let's say one example that comes to mind right away is pitting against small business owners against larger ones. So going for toning down the measure to say any company, and again, private sector, your own company, folks. If you have 50 or more employees or 100 or more employees, that you fall into this category where you could have the forced unionization. So that's government. We not only pick winners, losers, all of that, but they'll pit one group against another in their attempt to get something passed and take away part of that opposition. I would hope the people would recognize, we all know this, but sometimes have to be remembered. Just because you're not the main one on the dinner plate doesn't mean that you're not the second course and that's going to come after you. So stick up for your village, okay? What other way to put it? Stick up for your village, even if it isn't directly affecting you right now. It's just that other group. Yeah, it's okay if we do that to them because I'm not there. Then anyway, so now I'll stop and let you talk.
You're good. Natalie, good to see you again. Wanted to ask you real quick. We've been talking about this bill from a private sector standpoint. Is this bill going to also affect the public sector, particularly teachers' unions?
Yes. This would affect the most obvious one that they were going to go after would have been the public sector. So for them to take the private sector and have that in there, to me, is the advanced aggressiveness. So they may tone it down. Again, maybe they'll take the private sector out and just make it public. It's just like negotiating a deal. You tend to ask for more than what you want to end up with. And so the more I'm going to ask for everything, including the sink, is the mentality. So yeah, public sector, and that means that basically when these unions are negotiating, not only on hourly wage or salary or classifications or their workload and big red flag pensions, that we, the taxpayers, ultimately are the employer, so we end up paying more.
Wow.
And that became, I'll say this, now the state, it's again taking chunks, pieces. So they got the state unionization of several years ago. Colorado wins. As I've been listening to the Colorado legislature and the SMART Act reports, and they're asking for their fiscal notes. One of the ones I can remember very clearly is the JBC Joint Budget Committee meeting, JBC, where they were talking about the increased costs for the Colorado state unions. These are unexpected things that were substantial amounts of money, talking millions of dollars from what I recall, 3-4 million. So I'm going off memory. But that was stuff that was not indicated in the fiscal note. And so here we take chunks again. So there was a state, then we had the county unionization, which we're starting to just see the impacts of that. That was Senate Bill 22-230. And now they're going after, the big present under their union tree. And that is, all the more dues that they could pump into their bank accounts and spend as they wish. So I'm sorry, I went way too long, but just explaining the chunks there, where we are, and that this is then building. Right now, we have about 7% unionization within Colorado, public and private sector. That is below the national average. So we are in a good position and they want to get us up to where we're one of those. Let's be number one, kind of all right.
No, great context there, Natalie. Really appreciate you breaking it all down. I mean, people got to understand that these unions are really political entities, and I think that's one of the key components that you mentioned is that these unions, regardless of whatever else they do, they use their money for political campaigns. And as you reported before, Natalie, they use this money to raise our taxes, to restrict our rights. They spend this money on bad legislators. Some of the worst authoritarians down in the state capitol have their campaigns get lots and lots of money from these unions, and then they support these ballot initiatives. So I think people really need to understand that this Senate Bill 5 is a way for Democratic or left-wing organizations like the unions to get more money they can use in political campaigns to further cement their control of our state government. I mean, Natalie, you've been watching elections for years. I mean, how important are unions in terms of this campaign spending?
They're big. They cut these checks, 25, 50 grand coming out of Washington, D.C., or maybe local, but it adds up tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars. And I'm just looking at for the Secretary of State tracer lookups, meaning state campaigns. Before we got on tonight, I was going to look up at fec.gov and see how much the AFSCME, which is American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees, how much have they donated on top into federal campaigns, and so there's a lot. And let me go to one thing that's, I think, important to mention. First, I have experience dealing with a public union as an RTD board director. I had 8 years where we had to, what was passed was 2 collective bargaining agreements, unions, because RTD is a union. And right now it's open shop, so you're not forced to pay the dues. Now, this would change. Now, the point in all of this is I want to say I have experience scheduling the transportation system, scheduling what the workers do. When that unionization occurs, there's also like this change in mentality of what jobs are to be done, who will do them. And ultimately, to me, it does not mean higher customer service. And so we would see that same thing. I mean, I think about one of the things I'm very fond of doing is putting in something where some public workers employment, let's say they retire and replacing some of those positions with volunteer positions. There's a state law that would allow this. And working up to a certain amount of hours, you would be able to credit and get money off your property taxes. If you had a union, I could easily see them all of a sudden button their nose into whether you can replace things with a voluntary position, which ultimately saves somebody property tax, because they would want, that's the union brotherhood. So it's, to me, not about customer service in this, and it's going to cost us more money.
Natalie, one of the problems I remember, so I'm not a Colorado native, but I've had family ever since I was a kid that lived out here. And as soon as I could, I came out here. Once I finally got out here, I remember one of the things that happened was the Hostess plant shut down. And when the Hostess plant shut down, that was the final straw for Hostess. And there was no more Hostess for a few months until the Hostess brand got bought by another company. And we had Twinkies and Ho-Hos and et cetera come back. But the reason why was because Hostess itself could not afford to keep operating, and they were going through a very public battle with the union, and the union killed the company. That's one company, okay, in the private sector. It can come back. What happens when the union pushes a public municipality over the edge where they almost have to, declare bankruptcy? And we've seen it happen, not necessarily because of unions per se, but other municipalities throughout the country have declared bankruptcy in the past, particularly Detroit about 10 years ago. And so my question becomes, how do we prevent the union from taking such a strong hold so that way we never see anything like that happen on the local or state level?
I guess my best answer would go to RTD. RT is because it's somewhat of a relative. but we'd have to have the governor to do it. History on RTD. RTD again unionized. Back in the day, this during Owens' term, I believe, but Governor Bill Owens, there was a strike at RTD. He created a law, and there was public pressure at that time too, to require that only a certain amount of RTD could be the RTD employee. The rest of the work had to be subcontracted out. The purpose was if there was ever a strike again, we would not be totally dependent on services provided by just one solid unit. And we had these subcontractors over here. Well, after then the Dems took control, they actually reversed parts of that law and made it the other way. Instead of a certain, no more than being allowed to be an RTD employee and therefore striking, they switched it to no more than a certain amount could be private contractor. You know, that's maybe a very sad example, but you know, these kind of things, if the union takes over and they elected positions, they've got all of, you know, in the bank for them, is a citizen initiative. And I hate to say that because, you know, you're going to get into any one of those, especially with a subject like this, you're definitely at $1 million bill to get it onto the ballot. And I'm way underestimating really at the end of the day with that, but let's just say that's a, you know, that's why I'm going to beat this drum forever. We have to change our petition rates here in Colorado. We have to. And we're going to fight all these other battles. And the core of it's going to come down to what can we do? What can we do? How can we save Tabor? How can we get our Second Amendment rights back? How can we do all these things? We have to change our petition rights here in Colorado. And there's a thing called Petition Rights Amendment, PRA. And because otherwise we're at the mercy of those electeds. And if they've been bought and sold, don't have the majority. So that was a long-winded answer, but it gives, I think, certainty that there would be one answer.
Good point. Good point. I just wanted to share, Natalie, you put together some great slides for our video on unions. So I still had those saved here. Just wanted to pull it up briefly because people really need to understand how nefarious this is, right? Because Colorado has been a modified right to work state where we don't necessarily have a lot of experience with unions. You know, not a lot of us necessarily, like maybe out east. Somebody in the comments was talking about Illinois. Michael was talking about Detroit. Like there's a lot more unionization, it seems, out on the East and Midwest. So we're a little newer to it here in Colorado, but people need to understand just how horrible this would be for a worker. Now, imagine all this money that is already taken out of your paycheck for taxes. If your business becomes a closed shop and you're one of the 49% of people who don't want it to, you still have to pay these union dues. You still have to give up a part of your paycheck. And like you were saying, Natalie, you could be pressured. Somebody in the comments was saying harassment, you know, to be part of this union. All of a sudden now you have the government's already taking so much out of your paycheck. Now you got to give it to this other entity that's also a political entity that doesn't necessarily have your best interests at heart, but has their own organization's best interests at heart. I mean, am I wrong here, Natalie? Is there anything I'm missing in this part of the conversation with being a closed shop?
No. I mean, there's a bunch of other drawbacks that we haven't even gone into because that would take another 10 minutes. And I think, I don't know when the show ends, but we don't have enough time to do that. But there's other negatives in this. And I'm sure the hearing coming up, what is it, Tuesday or Wednesday? I had to look it up. There's a couple other on my calendar I got to mark down. Anyway, there's going to be a lot of testimony probably explaining other drawbacks to this. But I think just general, to me, here's the way I want to sum it up this way, and I keep trying to think my through devil's advocate, but there's going to be other bills, at least one already presented about wage theft, and that is subcontractors not doing this, giving the worker their full pay for what they earned. I don't view unionization as anything different than wage theft. And they're going to counter back and they go, well, the guy that didn't want to be in the union, he's going to benefit by the higher dollar amount if they get that hourly. Well, actually, there's no guarantee that the union got that. I mean, there's a lot of employers that do the compensation. And when I was seeing the numbers, pensions is where we really have to worry, frankly. I think more than hourly and salary, it's the pensions that get negotiated and they're unfunded and it doesn't operate the way our traditional like Social Security works and all of that. But those are obligations that are big, long obligations. So with all of that, I hope I answered the question there.
Perfect. Yeah, I just wanted to show this other screenshot you had from your slides from our video, which I definitely recommend people check out. But here's this press conference from November of last year. So they've been setting this stage. They've been setting this stage to try and get this bill passed, and they have this Colorado Worker Rights United. I mean, look at these people. You got Jenna Griswold there. You got Jesse Danielson, Javier Marbury, Manny Rutnell. You got all of these nefarious people. These are the people pushing this bill, folks. This, and they're politically connected unions that have backed these people in their campaigns and have backed initiatives to increase your taxes. So this one cannot fly under the radar. People really need to be aware about how bad this bill is. People really need to show up, testify in person if you can. At the very least, do it remotely or submit that written testimony. But reach out to the sponsors, tell them how wrong they are. Just because they're not representing your community, they still represent Colorado. You can still reach out to them, still talk to them about what you think about this bill. But yeah, Tuesday, January 21st, in the Business, Labor, and Technology Committee, people really need to pay attention to it. Michael, I'll let you, any other questions there you got for Natalie?
Natalie, I just appreciate your time, appreciate everything you do. I mean, you've been a workhorse in Jeffco, so just appreciate everything you do with us out here, and I'm grateful for it. We wish you would have won your county commissioner race, but I mean, we guess it wasn't in the cards, but that doesn't mean it can't be in the future.
Yes, as you can see, I'm still at it. I'm not hiding under the sheet.
That's right.
Coverage. So thank you, and I appreciate working with you guys on this. And I got to say one little thing. What concerns me a lot is that I expected this bill to be drug out and nugget out before it got to its first hearing, and it's already up for first hearing, and that I don't know what to read into that. So just a little thought for the night is we had no need for us to all take guesses here, but I was a little surprised by that. So hopefully at the end of the day, there's also a veto from Polis that could occur. And so anyway, there we go. As we're speaking up, Governor Polis, if anything, I'll say this, needs encouragement to be able to, know he's got a lot of people backing him if he does have to veto this bill at the end come 4 months from now, whatever it is.
Perfect. Well, Natalie, really appreciate you taking the time, even with the power outage going on. You still joined the call, but that just shows how
somebody was working on the electrical. I don't know who that might be, but that's why I have a problem. Anyway, I'll get it fixed tonight one way or the other, I hope.
We'll appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time. Your tenacity. You never give up. You're always fighting, even with the power issue. You're still on the call, so really appreciate you. Let us know any other bills that we should be paying attention to that we need to highlight. But really encourage people. Please speak up about Senate Bill 5. And just one last thing to reiterate, you're right. Senate Bill 5, I expected more to come at the end of the session because it's such a controversial, it's such a big battle. Same with Senate Bill 3, the gun bill. They're introducing very early this year some really, really bad legislation that in years past they've waited till the end of the session to introduce. So we don't need to necessarily read into that because we don't know the answer as to why, but it's something to pay attention to for sure. But any other final thoughts there, Natalie, before we let you go?
Well, this says in theory at 9 p.m., right?
It varies. It varies. We do 7:30 to 9, but we're going to keep going here and talk about some of the bills we're watching for the whole session.
Okay. Well, then there is one other bill I want to mention because maybe some people don't know what to read into this bill, and it's in the other room, so I apologize. I think it's Senate Bill 51. If you might want to, but it's RTD, and this bill, as a bit of background, one. RTD, if you start to look at it, but it'll talk about operating expenses. Hey, I remembered right. Cool. All right. So with that, again, talking about RTD's history, it's gone the opposite direction. RTD, one would expect the fairs pay a pretty decent amount of the operating expenses of RTD ride. In fact, they now pay about 5% of the operating costs of a ride. That's going the wrong direction. There used to be, not until recently, called a fare box recovery ratio of 30%, meaning what you charged on the fare had to be 30% of the operating cost. Good old RTDs persuading the legislature, they made that so weak, the 30%, that it went away. It modified it. That's why we now have fares only covering 5% of the cost. This bill, I can't read what exactly is in there in the true intent because of the sponsors that are on here, but it appears to be actually an improvement, I think, in getting back to trying to have fares covering a certain amount of the cost. Because otherwise, even if you don't use RTD, your sales tax is paying for RTD. And we want to get the best bang for our buck. If there's a user, the user should be paying a decent amount of the cost. So I'm just going to bring that one up and leave it at that. And I'll let you guys go back to your roundup. I don't know if that was going to be on the list we're going to talk about or have already talked about, but it'll be interesting to testify on this hearing and point out to those sponsors that I, as a taxpayer personally, expect fare riders to be paying a certain amount, like the older days, especially with this lack of ridership. Otherwise, we're just got a heavily subsidized system running around with, in large parts of the area, almost empty buses. And that doesn't even do any good for the environment. So they need to reevaluate all these things. And as that bill approaches, which other one we're waiting for, and that's Polis replacing elected RTD board directors with appointees. And I do believe that'll be coming up because RTD got the D-Tabor passed and Polis pulled his bill last year just so RTD wouldn't have any little hills there to climb getting past that. So we'll keep RTD on the radar too. And maybe this bill is actually a good one. I don't know. I'm going to have to talk to the one sponsor, especially was it Rod. I want to talk to him about it and see what his take is and what's his sponsorship about. Is it the pro thing? I think because the other two sponsors would surprise me that if they want that. I don't know them well enough to know. All right, I'll leave it at that. Now you guys can groove on into other bills.
Perfect, Natalie. Appreciate it. We'll keep an eye on this one for sure. It looks like the 29th is when it's going to be heard. So we'll talk about it that week. The 29th is what's scheduled. So we'll be talking about that next week on next week's live stream. So we'll dig into it between now and then and let us know any information you find.
I'm sure that's not a very sexy bill to people, but it was on my radar. So there you go.
Awesome. Well, thank you,
Okay,
Natalie.
I'm going to leave now.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye,
Natalie.
guys. Bye, everybody. Thank you. Bye.
So every week, Michael, one of the things, as you know, we do, but for the new viewers out there, we look at certain bills that we want to keep an eye on throughout the whole legislative session. There's not too many committee hearings this week, but they're going to start filling up the calendar soon enough. So we'll be trying to keep people informed and educated and updated on being active in this process and speaking down. So here are some of the bills that we are tracking through this legislative session. Michael, you want to talk about, mention a couple of these here?
Yeah, we're really excited. We struck a deal with Rep Ryan Gonzalez back when he was running. We agreed that we wouldn't run anybody against him in agreement. He would hold true to a certain set of principles. It was not necessarily the Liberty Pledge. We want to make sure he did not sign the Liberty Pledge. But he still came to an agreement with us in a way that was going to best represent liberty. And one of the things that he added for us that was separate from any sort of pledge that we didn't do with anybody else was he was going to introduce a bill. He decided to introduce this bill, HB 25-1074. And this bill, we were able to ironically get Senator Kirkmeyer, the Liberty Pledge itself, to sponsor this bill, excuse me. Senator Kirkmeyer was ironically the reason the Liberty Pledge took place because in 2022 she ran for CD8 here in Colorado, and she lost to Yadira Caraveo, who went on to become a senator who has now been replaced by Rep. Gabe Evans, who actually did sign a Liberty Pledge. So, find it very interesting that she signed on. We're grateful that she did sign on to the Liberty Pledge. Or excuse me, that she did sign on to this bill, because a bill, in order to pass all the way through the Senate and House, needs a prime sponsor in both the House and the Senate. This bill is set up to, and this bill has been um, set up to appeal the new cage confinement standards, essentially the cage-free mandates that have been going about. We believe that's caused a lot of harm. The only people that have been able to really survive those cage-free standards are the big-time farmers, and ironically, the big-time lay egg laying farmers have got together, lobbied, and they're the ones that lobbied for that bill actually, and they're willing to lobby against this bill as well. So that tells you exactly there is nothing free. There's nothing that's going to do any good for the free market, nor less families who are already struggling under all the inflation that we've seen recently. So, um, we're very proud of this bill. We're very proud that Rep. Gonzalez decided to introduce this bill for us, and we are looking to and we're hoping that we can get everybody behind this because we have a date of the 27th, Monday afternoon on January 27th. This bill is actually going to be heard before committee. So we want every single individual that can possibly show up to show up either in person, and if you can't show up, uh, be there remote. And we would love to see you there. And please support this bill because now we're seeing attacks, not necessarily with this bill in mind per se, but they're saying that we're seeing Kyle Clark, that wonderful human being who definitely is not shady at all. He is, how do I say this, Brandon? He's basically coming out and saying it's purely the bird flu that's causing all the issues with our um, egg issues in the prices of eggs. It's very, very concerning to me that people are trying to gaslight us by saying the avian flu is the entire reason for the cause in egg egg prices rising so extremely fast as they have. Uh, so we need to sit there and let them know, hey, you modify all these cage-free egg standards, it's going to make it you're going to destroy the supply. Also, when you put everybody together, put all those eggs together the way they are, when you had cage-free standards, all the hens love to get together, and then um, it it leads to more sickness and disease versus when they're spread out inside a cage. So, um, I'm going way too long, but really wanted to let you guys know about this about 1074. We're very proud of it, and please join us on the 27th.
Yes, definitely, Michael. Yeah, we got to repeal this ridiculous cage-free egg law. So January 27th, we need everybody down at the state capitol that Monday, 1:30 p.m., House Committee Room 107 in the Agriculture, Water, and Natural Resources Committee. So everybody needs to show up, testify in support of good liberty legislation. House Bill 1074, a great bill to just turn things back to how it was last year with this egg law. So people need the relief. Definitely need to encourage people there. So get involved, people. This is a huge opportunity for the Liberty community to show up and have a voice. Another a bill coming up here, House Bill 1051, another good bill. It doesn't go far enough, unfortunately, but sometimes that's how it goes. As you know, right now, in order to get a paper bag, you have to pay 10 cents at a grocery store. You're supposed to pay 10 cents at a grocery store. It's absolutely and utterly ridiculous. The plastic bag ban is so backwards and totally opposite of where we should be as a free society. But nonetheless, a bill to repeal the 10-cent fee for paper bags, that's a good bill. It has not been assigned a committee hearing yet, but we'll keep people updated. That's another one people need to show up and speak on for sure. Somebody's asking in the comments, didn't voters approve the hen thing? No, it was not the voters. It was the legislature itself doing it. So something to pay attention to there. Michael, you want to tell us about any of these bills here? We'll go briefly through that because we're kind of getting towards the end of the night here, but maybe we'll just give people kind of an idea of some of these other bills we're keeping an eye on here.
Absolutely. This bill, 1005 is essentially a bill to give special favors to Hollywood so that way they will come here and not have to pay as much money as other people that are coming here. So it's a super crony bill to get Hollywood elites to come to Colorado eh, and have their little film festivals. It's an absolutely unnecessary bill. There's bigger things to worry about. They should not be wasting the people of Colorado's time with a bill like this. You're on mute, Brandon.
Oh, thanks, thanks. Yeah, they want to give these special tax credits to these people to come host a film festival here, picking winners and losers, trying to manipulate the market for supposed tax benefits. But yeah, not the role of government whatsoever. Another bill coming up here is this price gouging one. We talked about that with Representative Bradley. House Bill 1010. Really need people to show up and speak on this. It's absolutely it's the opposite of economics, which is just ignorance and misunderstanding of how the world works is what's behind this bill. This price gouging bill is absolutely stupid. Michael, I loved what you said earlier about how, there's this so say there's this bird flu going on and now these producers have to raise the cost of eggs. Well, hey, they wouldn't be allowed to raise the cost of eggs if this law passed because of this emergency. And now there's shortages because nobody can afford to produce them at the old costs. So absolutely and utterly ridiculous. It's a government trying to manipulate the market. And it makes no sense whatsoever. Prices are signals that show you the value of something based on the subjective idea of how much of it there is, when you need it, how many people are looking for it. Prices contain a lot of information. And for the government to try and control pricing leads to shortages, leads to misallocation of resources, and creates a bad situation in the market. So 1010, also one of the worst bills we've seen this year. And it's almost laughable just how bad the understanding of economics that these legislators, these lawmakers have. Any other thoughts on 1010?
No, I think you pretty much covered it in a nutshell. I mean, these it's just absolutely ridiculous that they think that they know better than what the entire uh economy knows. I mean, the economy is what creates the price. So why is it that you, because you got voted in by a bunch of other people, know better than everybody else?
Exactly. Exactly. Some other bills we're going to be watching this year. We talked about this nuclear energy bill. That's a bipartisan legislation to add nuclear energy as a clean energy resource. So that's something I think people are getting excited about. Another opportunity for that bill to actually pass this year. So that'd be good to see. We'll keep people updated about when that hearing is going to be. 1031, the law enforcement whistleblower protection. Some of my least favorite legislators are sponsoring this bill, but nonetheless, a bill to keep an eye on if people like this idea of whistleblowers and allowing law enforcement employees and officers to be able to speak out about what they see without necessarily facing retaliation. So probably a good thing from a libertarian perspective. So we'll keep an eye on that one as well. Michael, you got your favorite legislator here, Representative Faith Winter, trying to raise our registration fees, now allowing local governments to generate additional fee-based funding for these vulnerable road user protection strategies. I mean, how ridiculous is this, Michael?
Oh, it's just absolutely ridiculous. They're just trying to transition people in a all climate state into taking transportation that is not suitable for all climates, particularly right now. I cannot imagine forcing everybody out of their vehicles onto bicycles and then me driving around with my family on a bicycle on these in these icy conditions. I mean, it's an extremely dangerous proposition. And yeah, I don't necessarily want people to be hurt necessarily, but we already have existing laws in the books to protect people who are already in a vulnerable position on the road. So it's just kind of a silly, needless bill on their way to turning us into these to a 15-minute city state.
Definitely, cars are one of the best things a person can have to improve their income mobility, to improve their economic opportunity. And of course, it's one of the things that is being consistently now being targeted by these authoritarians who want to take away our ability to drive. So terrible, terrible bill. Really good bill, though. We need people to show up and support. And folks, these are not going to be this week, but we will keep you up to date for future weeks. You can also look these up on the legislative website to dig in a little bit further. But a bill we're paying attention to that we really want people to support is House Bill 1055 to repeal the firearm dealer requirements in this ridiculous state permit scheme that started last year, or was passed into law last year, rather. This bill does need to be repealed. It's ridiculous. It's a way to hurt gun stores. Of course, that's their goal. So we need people to show up and support 1055 when that comes up.
And also, I'd love to see see a Senate sponsor hop on that bill as well.
Definitely. We're really excited about criminal asset forfeiture. House Bill 1067. That's going to be a really good one. So we're going to keep people informed, and I'm sure we can get Representative DeGraff to give us some words on that one as it goes through the process. Great bill, great thing with that bill. It's been assigned to the Judiciary Committee, not to the Kill Committee. So there's a good chance that it's going to potentially make it further than it did last year. So we need Republicans to support civil asset forfeiture reform, not just the Democrats. Go ahead, Michael.
I love the idea of Republicans supporting civil asset forfeiture. I mean, it's a fantastic prospect if we can get a lot more libertarian leaning policies pushed by Republicans. I mean, we've got a really strong group of Republicans in our at the Gold Dome. So I'm very happy to see this one pushed and consistently pushed by Rep. DeGraff.
Yeah, he's been a champion of civil asset forfeiture, so really excited for this one. And we keep bringing this, we keep mentioning Republicans is because last year Republicans killed the civil asset forfeiture reform bill, much to all of our disappointment. So really shameful behavior. But let's move on to the new ones. We're going to keep an eye on this one about electronic fence detection systems. So keep an eye on that. That should be something interesting for people. Of course, here's Representative Brandy Bradley's bill and her bipartisan bill with Regina English. We're going to be keeping an eye on that one. There's no committee date assigned yet, but as soon as there is, we will let you know. We really want people to show up and support that. You got to hear Representative Bradley. She's a true warrior, fighter for liberty. So we need to show up and support her when she sponsors good bills like this. And then this worker protection collective bargaining we just talked to, that's going to be heard this Tuesday. Really, please encourage people at the very least do remote testimony, submit written statement, just try and do something, please. All right, a couple more here. You want to go through these, Michael?
Yeah, next one is landlord enforcement. The only thing you need to know about this one is look at the sponsors: Weissman, Gonzalez, Lindsay, Mabry. I mean, that's all you need to know about this one. Mabry, his thing is wrecking tenants because how dare somebody have a house and voluntarily agree to a set of standards for with another individual so that way they can have a place to live in a safe environment. So, I mean, shame on them for providing that service at a profit. So, yeah, this is another one we're going to want to kill, but that's Mabry's big thing. And ironically, he is a tenant landlord law and tenant law is Mabry's thing outside of being a legislator. So, at the end of the day, he's got something going on and for himself in all this. So, very crooked and corrupt if you ask me, but I'm just one guy.
Yeah, that's a bad bill. Senate Bill 20 basically will turn sick the attorney general onto landlords and property owners for violating this quote unquote landlord tenant law. These arbitrary agreements that people don't necessarily voluntarily agree to, but nonetheless are pushed by these legislators who, and some of them like Marbury and Weiss, what's his name? Gosh, the Woodrow are both in
Yeah.
these lawyers that are going to financially benefit from these laws. So bad stuff. What do you think about Senate Bill 47 there, Michael?
I mean, I yeah, I'd love to see this. I don't think this one's going to go anywhere. I'm glad to see it's got sponsors in both the House and Senate, but this is an attempt to repeal our sanctuary state laws, and it hasn't really gone anywhere in the previous years, and I really don't think it's going to go anywhere this year. Uh, in spite of a lot of the concerning things that have happened in Colorado over the last couple years.
Somebody in the chat says, why is 47 assigned as it is? Well, because the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee is also known as the Kill Committee. So leadership in the Senate will send a bill there that they want to die. So this bill is not going to potentially maybe judiciary or some other committee that might, because that's to do with law, might make more sense. This is going to the kill committee because the Democratic leadership in the state Senate are planning on killing this bill. No doubt that they're going to kill this bill immediately. So if this is something you care about, if you're passionate about enforcing federal immigration law, this is one you can show up and testify on. Rally some people and get them down there at the state capitol for this bill if it's something you're interested in. So we'll keep you posted on when that hearing's going to be as it gets closer. Senate Bill 3, of course, the gun bill. We're going to be talking a lot about that, of course, as we get closer. That's the one everybody's been talking about. It basically will ban every semi-automatic firearm that has a detachable magazine in the state of Colorado. A lot of people are going to be upset about this. We need all hands on deck for that one for sure. If there's, so we'll be talking about that again, of course. And then, Michael, I don't know if you've looked into Senate Bill 33 at all. I kind of did a little bit of a deep dive on it earlier this week. Um, Basically, they want to prohibit grocery stores and gas stations and pharmacies from selling beer and wine, basically, is what they want to do. They want to eliminate issuing new drugstore licenses. Now, a drugstore liquor license is what a grocery store uses. That's the liquor license they have to get, the type of liquor license they have to get in order to sell beer and wine. So Senate Bill 33 is a protectionist bill to try and protect all these small liquor stores against, bigger chains or bigger stores that are selling alcohol and beer and wine at a much discounted rate. I understand, a lot of these local liquor stores are going out of business because they can't compete with the supermarkets. But nonetheless, this is not moving in the right direction. New prohibitions on liquor licenses is not a way to a free state, that's for sure.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I know that a few years ago there was a citizens initiative that was passed to allow these grocery stores, etc., uh, sell liquor, which was a very unique thing. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was a very interesting concept. But you also kind of knew with hand in hand that there were going to be some problems with the existing liquor stores. But as libertarians, you would think that you would be okay with that competition. Uh, Competition creates better, um, more ideal situations because it puts people in a position where they need to become creative. They need to start evolving, becoming more changing to adapt to the market. Otherwise, they're going to die. So, what we're really seeing with our current state is we're seeing the evolving. We're seeing that happen within Colorado, and what's concerning to me is we're not seeing the liquor stores adapting. We're not seeing anything new. We're not seeing anything innovative. Where And instead, what's happening is people are trying to get these licenses banned. I would love to see a dish. I would love to go into. I live just a few blocks, not very far away from Molly's, actually. And I would love to go into Molly's and see them doing a lot more unique, creative things than they're currently doing. The small town, there's also a lot of smaller little liquor stores where the only thing they do is sell beer. I'd love to see them find a unique, creative way to promote their company, promote their brand, make yourself a place to want to travel to buy to purchase alcohol. But this is not the way to do it, and this is not going to lead to anything unique or innovative for Colorado. So very disappointed this has been introduced, but I'm also not surprised.
Yeah, definitely. If these legislators wanted to help local liquor stores, they should repeal the licensing or the tasting requirements. Let these local liquor stores do tastings, let them, let people drink on site in order to promote it because you can get the suppliers, distributors, even the breweries or wineries or the different distilleries involved, and they would come out and do tastings and host events and really hype up the product. Those laws are something that can be changed to really help these local liquor stores. So there's things they can do, but unfortunately, going after the competition is not the right direction for sure.
Completely agree.
So that's what we got, Michael. That's our live stream this week, folks. So really appreciate people joining in and being here with us. What else, Michael? Any thoughts here as we wrap it up?
No, I think we covered quite a bit. I'm kind of curious what we're going to be seeing over the next upcoming weeks. I mean, you never know what's going to introduced, and I mean, you never know. You've never truly know what will be and what won't be introduced until basically the final week when they sneak stuff in. Because the last 2 years we've seen property tax bills come in the final week of legislative session. So you never know until you see it. So.
Definitely. Well, appreciate everybody for joining us on the live stream. Really appreciate Representative Brandy Bradley and Natalie Menten, two fighters for liberty. We have such a great community. All these people taking up the fight and getting involved. Just keep it up, people. Don't give up. Love to meet you people in the chat and go down to our legislature and testify in person. But I hope you can join us again next week. And if there's any bills we missed, please reach out to us. Michael K. Vance on X, Free State Colorado on X, Libertarian Party of Colorado, Free State Colorado. Yeah. Any final thoughts there, Michael?
Uh, I was very excited to be able to finally meet Brandy Bradley in person. Her speech was pretty fantastic at the end there. It's never too late until it's over, so keep on fighting.
Yes, and big shout out to everybody watching and in the chat. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for being a part of this, and we're gonna keep going and keep fighting. We will be a free state eventually. So awesome,
Yeah, that's right.
cool.
Thank you, everybody.